we are, my 1994 Dodge Viper RT10. Such a beautiful car. So much fun to drive. A little morning drive in my 94 Viper. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. It's a little bit cool out, which is nice. The cool thing about this car, it is so torquey. I mean, I have a couple of 911 cars, and it's just a different way to drive. Now, this is my second Dodge Viper. I had a 2001 RT10. And that car was just amazing. And now this thing is just a little bit more rustic than my 2001. It doesn't have windows, it's snap-in screens. This one has an optional hardtop. Well, it's aftermarket. I don't think it came from the factory back then, but it is aftermarket, and I prefer a hardtop actually. I don't, getting older, I don't like to get out in the sun that much, but it does look cool when the top is off. And this thing has such low end torque. I think the 400 horsepower, 460 foot-pounds of torque, you can take off in second gear with no problem. And actually this car is equipped from the factory with an upshift directional arrow, telling you that when you come out of first gear, you need to upshift to second pretty quickly. I think I had a Z06 Corvette that had the same thing, and then I installed a skip link that you can bypass that. God, this thing hates to go slow. Hates it. People will call this car the Widowmaker, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm not sure how many of these from 94 still exist. I think the numbers are pretty low. Production numbers were not that high. And because they're so torquey, people, even with these huge tires, people just didn't know how to drive them or didn't respect the car, and a lot of them were crashed. When I bought my 2001, the fellow who owned it, he lived in Chicago. He had bought it from an older guy in West Palm Beach, Florida. And the car only had a little over 3,000 miles on it. And I asked him, I said, well, why are you selling? And he said, well, I'm kind of afraid of it. He said, I drive it around the block and it's just so torquey, it scares me. And I think a lot of people feel that way. But anyway, I bought that thing and drove it all the way back to Atlanta and enjoyed every second of it. You just got to respect the car. It's nothing unusual. I'm going to put a link in the comments down below to Jay Leno's video. I think he was one of the first purchasers. I think in '93, he got a black one, and he has a great video explaining everything about the car. And it really is a simple, fun, easy to work on, easy to get parts for pretty much. I mean, body panels are non-existent now because of course they don't make them, but engine parts and any kind of work like that, brake parts. I bought this car a number of months ago on Bring a Trailer, the auction site, and I really enjoy that site because when you get a car on there, it gets broken down by every expert in the country or even the world probably, people who really know their stuff. And this car is probably as close to a new one as you can get. The interior pieces are not great. I mean, the dash is typically the first thing that kind of fails. They get, if they're left out in the sun very much, they get discolored and get, I don't know, they look like they have mold on it or something. But the paint comes off pretty easily. Now, thankfully, the prior owner of this car had it totally repainted, and it looks fantastic. I mean, it looks like a brand new dash. So that is one problem area with the Gen 1 Dodge Vipers. But this one looks good. Everything in this car works like it should. Runs nice and cool, and right now we're showing right at about 190. And it will pop up if you've got the air conditioner on, which, by the way, is the first year that the Viper came with air conditioning. It was an option. The 92, 93s did not offer that, which, as time moved on, air conditioning is a must-have. I live here in Georgia, and you just can't drive this thing in the heat. because of the big motor. It does put off a fair amount of heat that comes through the firewall. I think it's kind of cool that when Carroll Shelby teamed up with Dodge Mopar to develop this car, or have a hand in developing it, you know, they wanted it to be a streetable Cobra. And I've owned a Cobra replica. I had a Factory 5 car, and this one, it's certainly not a kit, but it has that kind of kit feel that they, you know, and they left it that way, and that's what I really enjoy. And I think the styling of these cars is just so spot on, especially the Gen 1 cars. When they moved it after 2002, when they moved to the SRT in 2003, I think it lost a little bit. It's not as attractive. It's a pretty car for sure, but it's really, these cars, I think, look the best. Another thing that really drove me toward this car, so many of the cars are modded and not left alone. They put cold air intakes and mess with the mufflers and just do other things, or color the interior. I changed the interior out. Now this car does have an aftermarket radio, and I wish it had the original, which would have been really nice. And he did, one of the previous owners actually have an old school iPod connector that comes out of the glove box, and I don't use that. You know, driving this car, you don't need the radio. You can't really hear it very well anyway, even with the speakers in here right next to your head. It's just not a music car. I think I like most purists, I would prefer the sound of exhaust. That to me is where the true music is. Great clutch, steering is awesome, shifts great. Now a lot of people will change out the shifter and put a short throw in it, but you know, the factory shifter does it well enough. And in fact, when I do buy anything that's a little bit modded, I do my best to get it back to the original. The original is good, it works. Here we are, my 1994 Dodge Viper RT10. It is very low miles, no modifications at all, except for the radio. Anyway, it's in fantastic condition, has an aftermarket hard top with hard side screens. Now, this car originally, as most people know, didn't come with windows. It's, you know, it's all a snap-in screen kind of situation. As you can see, they go down in the slots there. And so that's how you get in. Also, no side door handles, smooth outside, which I think is really kind of cool. I mean, they tried to make this thing as much like a Shelby Cobra when Carroll Shelby got together with Dodge and created this thing. Seats are in great shape, a little side bolster wear there, just a little, and kind of cool. Side exhaust only on a 94. I'm not sure, I think maybe 96 they switched to rear exhaust, I don't know. But anyway, got this warning here, do not touch this area. It gets warm. Now it gets warm, but it's not going to roast you. I had a 1966 Corvette that I drove to college, and it had factory side pipes, those fiberglass side pipes, and I have a couple of dates that probably still bear that scar of that waffle pattern on the side of her leg when she got out. Yeah, that got hot. This, not so much. This comes with air conditioning. 1994, of course, was the first year that they offered air conditioning, which makes it very, very livable. The previous owner did chrome the wheels. And, oh, also, I think I talked about it before, I'll talk about it later. The most problematic areas with these Gen 1 Vipers is the dash and the condition that it can get in. They start to look pretty faded if the car has spent much time out in the sunshine. This one has been repainted, so it is almost, well, it looks brand new, actually. Hardtop is awesome. I do have the toupee looking soft top, which I think is pretty ugly on the car, but you know, necessary, along with the factory canvas and plastic windows. All right, we're going to take a look under the hood. All right, here we are. Got the hood up. It's a two-step process, and you got to be very careful with it. Don't want to rack it and make it fit funny. Jay Leno in his video talks about that. I think he says that to replace this thing, this fiberglass piece, even if you could find one, is like 20 grand. So you need to be really careful with that. This to me is the money shot. Just look at that. It is so just powerful looking. I mean, it's art. Beautiful. You know, they took this from a Dodge truck motor, V10 truck motor, and I think they had Lamborghini help in development of this. I think that Dodge had bought Lamborghini back in the day, and made it an aluminum block. And this thing is untouched, no mods at all, and perfect. Just a classic view. Now the previous owner, if you have a sharp eye, you see this. These wheels are directional. So you see that is the correct way, that is the incorrect way, and I haven't gotten it into the shop or been in a position to get it jacked up and just swap them. They're not directional tires, so you just swap the wheels and put them on the right side. Anyway, the previous owner took it to the shop, they stuck them on wrong. He didn't realize it until he'd gotten home. The interior is in great shape. Every gauge works the way it's supposed to. Just a pleasure to drive, and I really thank the guys who had this car before me. They took great care of it. I see so many. Another really great thing that I really loved about this car when I was looking at it to buy it or bid on it, the underside of this car. I can't get under there because it's so low, but I will include some photos of the undercarriage. I think it was up on a lift, so we got some good shots of it. And the underside of this car is just as clean as the top. Just so well cared for over its life. Again, another great view, like everything opened up. I would take the hardtop off, but that is a two-man job, and currently I don't have two guys or another guy to help me do that. Just don't want to damage anything. But I leave it on. I enjoy being covered. So I think I would follow Jay Leno's advice. Again, I'm going to put that link down there to his video on his black 93. He says if you can find one that has been cared for in very, very clean condition, it is a great investment, because these things are doing nothing but going up in value. So, hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll talk to you soon.